votes in relation to, can we read it? Can that be read?
Yeah, you have it in front of you. While you're taking a look at that, sorry, Mike, you want to approve the minutes of the executive session? I apologize.
You're fine. The council needs to approve the minutes to the executive session from 2/3/25. Entertain a motion. Got a motion to hear a second. Got a second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. I'll abstain. I didn't attend, so motion carried.
You have that.
Yes.
Would you read that, please?
Jerry's sitting here, but he's declaring at Monmouth Solar, Durrell. You have land in that. I have 9 rounds leased to the solar project. He's received approximately $1,000 per acre and 225 acres. Correct, Jerry? Yep.
So my only question, Jerry, will you be recusing yourself from any votes in relation to or regard to commercial solar, or what is your intent there?
Okay.
I think as long as it doesn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form, I think legally I want to check with it.
Jacob Ayler is on his way.
And-
Got stuck behind a truck on 35.
Okay, can we wait until he's here just to get his
I was
opinion?
trying to fill in some time until Nathan was ready is what I was doing.
Yeah, if we can wait until he gets here to get his opinion, Jerry, I'd feel more comfortable doing that. Yeah, thank you.
Nathan, are you ready? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. A couple of updates for you this evening, starting with the courthouse project. As soon as I can find that last page. So no new change orders for your consideration this evening, nor have I approved any under my threshold in the last 10 days to 2 weeks. The last one actually credited our contingency fund. I do expect to receive the final change order from that time and materials emergency change order that we had to approve fairly soon. The sidewalk issue is still outstanding, and there'll probably be a small one coming for some mill work, but in general, as we progress further along, these requests become fewer and further between and generally smaller in cost. Project finances, our owner's contingency balance is just above $260,000, minus the eventual cost for the sidewalk and the other outstanding change orders, but I should note that, as I think I've previously explained, we expect eventually to be reimbursed for the HVAC work, so it shouldn't have a net effect on our contingency. We have maxed out our accruable interest in our contingency and currently have about $60,000 in excess interest proceeds that we are not allowed to put towards the building, but can put towards other county-owned facilities. So if the sheriff's office needed new carpet, or one of the annexes needed a new roof or something like that, we could put it towards a project in another facility.
Nathan, can that be used for maintenance or upkeep of the courthouse?
It has to be expended within 3 years of the closing of the bond sale.
Okay. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I did ask explicitly about that question, and we have to have it spent down within 3 years. Ton and Blank's construction contingency still has a balance of more than $400,000. So while we've been nickeled and dimed a lot as we've discovered things, they have not had to dive into that. Of course, that is all money that we can put into things that maybe we had to cut that fit within that, or can allocate towards our first interest payment. And I think, having spoken with the steering committee, we would be well advised to keep a little bit of whatever is left for the most of the duration of that 1 year period in case there are any uh-ohs after the punch list corrections have been completed. Anything we just come across that isn't under warranty, that sort of thing. But we've got, between the two, we've got more than $600,000 at this point. And then project update, progress updates. We've started to see not only paint, but also now light and tile fixtures go into the restrooms. Masons are getting nearer and nearer to finishing their exterior work and have been washing a lot of the stone lately. Delta 3 has been doing underground utility work on Meridian Street and the parking lot between Howard's and the Justice Center, and should finish that this week. In addition to continuing with prep work and painting, that subcontractor has also been staining a lot of millwork. And we've seen brand new baseboard profiled to match the original trim installed in one basement suite. Light fixtures have been installed in a handful of other suites, and we now have a lot of lighting and cabinetry on site. I spent most of Thursday with Luminaut's interior designer and our furniture people reviewing plans with all of the department heads so that we can move forward with finalizing that part of the project. Questions or comments about the courthouse project?
I'll make a comment. I can tell a big difference in the outside of the courthouse from the east side to the north side. So
Yes.
it does look a lot better.
I actually was noticing that today too, how
Yeah.
clean that east side looked.
Mhm.
I was at the Grass Creek Lumber the other day at Grass Creek, Indiana, the only business in that town. And the man that does that informed me that he's doing a lot of work on
Yes,
the
he is doing a lot of the
courthouse
restoration
project.
work
That
on
was
the pieces
kinda
that were,
neat.
yes.
Little
He's done it.
business.
You can actually go in the meeting room or in the lobby of the highway garage and see some of the pieces he's already done later too. Looks really good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, then I'll move on to a couple of CURPSI updates. At our January meeting, I was reelected secretary. President Teedy is our other executive board member. Commissioner McClure also represents the county, while Sidney Deisinger, Ashley Sellier, and Alvin Parrish represent Francisville, Madairyville, and Winnemac, respectively. If this happens, if this is approved, it won't be until the May CURPSI meeting, but I wanted you all to be aware in advance that CURPSI may increase its annual per capita fee paid by its member counties effective next year. The fee has not increased since 2002, when it was set at 40 cents per resident based on the most recent census. In order simply to have kept pace with inflation, it should have been raised to 71 or 72 cents by now. Proposal on the table calls for a 15 cent increase next year and then another 15-cent climb in 2027. So that next year's fee for Pulaski County would be $6,883, up from this year's $5,006. And then 27's fee would be $8,760. By 2027, CURPSI's annual per capita revenue would increase from $57,914 this year to $101,350. Going forward, CURPSI would adopt a formal review process to review its financial position on a biennial basis to determine if another increase would be warranted in any other given year. In possibly pursuing these fee adjustments, CURPSI is looking at ways to add value that it provides to our communities, including the possibility of adding a staff position, perhaps expanding the range of grants for which the organization can write applications on behalf of our regional counties and communities. Right now, it's almost exclusively community development block grants through OCRA and occasionally economic development administration grants. We've had several inquiries over the years from communities that we serve in the 8-county region to assist with other funding sources, and we haven't had the capacity to that. And it's hard for a lot of smaller towns to go out and get their own grant writer. So we are looking at that possibility long term. Questions about CURPSI? Right, very quickly, we are nearing the end of the rebuild process for our website, Pulaski Online, which will feature a fresher look, improved accessibility, and a generally user-friendlier layout, as well as some back-end improvements that make things like our meetings page, where I post all of the agendas, minutes, claims, and live stream videos, easier to manage, so it will require less time for me, whoever is dealing with that. I'm working through a review of the preview version, and once Crane and Gray has made any tweaks, we'll be able to go live with the new website. Any questions on that? Right. Then the last thing I have for you, just some general CDC updates. First, on behalf of the Advisory Commission on Industrial Development, I have two requests of the Board of Commissioners this evening. The first is to approve, and this is mostly the spending threshold approval, because I'm not sure what the cost will be, but it'll probably be more than the $2,500 I'm allowed, to approve an updated appraisal of the county-owned industrial park land. Have a new appraisal prepared. Process required by state law for selling industrial park land is particularly convoluted, and having one of the two required appraisals done, ready to go, would expedite the process modestly. We're an interested party to seek land for development. We would pay for this out of Fund 4025 Industrial Park Improvements, which is a non-tax-based fund. Second request is for the commissioners to convene at one of your meetings in the near future, convene a Board of Finance meeting to approve investing $30,000 from that Fund 4025 and $40,000 from Fund 4103, our general donation fund, which exists to support industrial park improvements and the relocation of the fairgrounds to the industrial park if that ever happens. It hasn't happened since 1987, so I'm not holding my breath, but theoretically that was part of the arrangement made when the Galbraith and Braun families sold the land to the county. But I haven't touched either of those funds since the last time we did an appraisal on the industrial park when we had some ground that we sold. So the industrial park board thought it would make sense, even if it's just a few bucks a year, it'd make more sense to generate a little bit of interest than to have it sitting there nothing. So Board of Finance, next time we meet, we'd like to invest that, and I would like to go ahead to get an updated approval of the industrial park done.
You're asking approval for an appraisal.
Yes.
Possibly how much will that be?
Honestly, I don't remember what it was the last time I had one do one, and it's probably increased.
Do you have anyone currently interested in purchasing any of that property?
No, we don't. I've had a few people in the last 2 years who have kind of speculatively looked at it, and I'm thinking about doing something. I need a building. I don't know that either of those people are like raring to go at this moment. It's just such a drawn out, weird process when somebody does come that if we have a fairly recent appraisal on hand, we can move the ball a little bit faster. Still has to go through the process. Has to be advertised. The industrial park board has to make a recommendation to the commissioners. So all it does is mean that we don't have to wait as long on the appraisal stage when that time comes. And everything.
Did you mention when the last appraisal was done?
2016 or so. Whenever the town bought 3 acres to expand the cemetery, it was the last time we had to have one.
Okay.
It was at least 18, if not sooner, not earlier.
So do we want him to look at any pricing?
And get an estimate, come back to you, sure.
Right.
Get us an idea next Monday. They're on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right, I will do that. The other commissions, our other development commissions that we had set up, the redevelopment commission is doing a little bit of visioning, brainstorming process right now, looking for opportunities to add value to the community. That is in a lot of respects a very reactive body. If something that would call for a bond issuance comes into play, they might convene and have to work through that. Otherwise, unless we have money at our disposal and an itchy trigger finger to redevelop a building or set of buildings, it doesn't do a lot. So we're just we're working over looking at strategic plans and that sort of thing, and just sort of getting a sense at what we might want to propose spending our time on, so that, like I said, they can, when they come to their meetings a couple times a year, they can add some value to the county and not just say that they met for the sake of it. So we'll see where that goes along. I think we're going to meet again in March. The Economic Development Commission is in a holding pattern, waiting for any tax abatement requests that it may need to review. And once the program is reopened, any revolving loan fund applications that might come through my office. And then finally, Tourism Advisory Council is working on a tourism strategic plan and is planning to have designed a new tourism rack card in the future. We don't want to put a multi-panel brochure together with lots of information that'll become outdated by the time it's printed. But something sleek, simple, that will attract people's attention, direct them to our website, give them more information without us having to change it every other year. Any questions on those things?
No, but Nathan, can I back up to the redevelopment commission? Explain when you talk about adding value, opportunities to add value to the community. I mean, we have several different organizations in the community that are all looking, and you tell me if I'm on the wrong track, but we've got the Tribe, we've got Community Foundation, we've got Main Street, we have several how do those tie into the redevelopment
So
commission?
any one or multiple of them may tie in depending on the specific project or projects that the redevelopment commission wants to undertake. So one of the powers it has is that, unlike some entities of government, it can actually for instance, First Source Bank building downtown Winnemac just vacated, or the old grocery store in Francisville. If the funds are appropriated by the council to do this, the redevelopment commission has the power to buy a building like that, renovate it for whatever purpose, and then either flip it to get back on the tax rolls, rent it, a combination of the two. Now, obviously, a lot of our is conversation like where we would like to go pending council approval, funding, et cetera, but trying to, I think one of the redevelopment commissioners specifically mentioned that after the courthouse has been finished and most of the offices have moved in, if the county proceeds in the near future with finding new homes in a different building for extension in the health department, maybe the redevelopment commission takes over that rather than directly, and then we redevelop it. And then once it's got value and is likelier to find somebody to buy it, actually to run it as something, sell it like that. That was one idea that was thrown in the conversation.
So are these other organizations, when you have these meetings, is anyone from those organizations invited to?
They're open to the public. They're not, and especially right now, like realistically, the first few meetings we've had, they've been very basic educational. Going forward, like I gave the example of First Source or the old IGA building.
Right.
We would certainly, if we worked with the commissioners and council and said we're going to redevelop one of those buildings, we would certainly invite Main Street Winnemac or the Uptown Project, depending on it, and want to work with them because that's right in their program areas.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So far, I mean, they're public meetings, but they have been a lot of like, here's what you do, and me just like, here's what's been going on since the last meeting, getting them caught up to speed. And as we dive into this brainstorming process and start figuring out the direction that they want to go in, there will be opportunities for sure to bring one or more of those groups, depending on what sort of the focus is.
And where are those, where do you post the dates for those meetings?
Anytime we have a meeting, they go on the county's website and on the county's Facebook page, and then I post it out at my building, and then if I get the chance, I post it at the annex too. But we do get it on the county website and Facebook.
Are they like quarterly or just random?
CDC minutes are quarterly. The other commissions, as required by law, they meet in January or February for organization, and then they're sort of random based on the need too.
Okay.
Especially now that we've decided it's good to pay members to show up to board meetings and be involved. Try not to hold too many meetings for the sake of having a meeting.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Revolving loan fund. Mr. Ayler has the documentation on that. Start looking into it when he has gotten settled in with all of the fund this county is bringing him. As of today, we have $292,246.39 available in the fund to lend. All 4 of our borrowers were in good standing through January, and 3 of the 4 have already made their February payments. Quick update on housing. The underground work is nearly complete on 2 of the buildings at the Willow Creek Villas project on Galbraith Drive. Sullivan Development expects to see those structures start going vertical within the next couple of weeks, and the project is generally a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. And then finally, a couple of quick broadband updates. Between the USDA and Okra, Pulaski County has been awarded 2 grants, the former eligible for planning or other uses, and the latter exclusively for planning. So I'll be working with the Community Foundation, which submitted the application for the USDA grant, and our broadband task force to determine the best way to use those USDA funds, either on top of the planning grant funds from Okra or as a second step beyond that to make sure that we stretch these grants as far as we legally can. Additionally, Lightstream is moving forward with a project that will provide access to fiber internet for about 150 households to the southwest, west, and northwest of Winnemac. And Nashville, Indiana-based Mainstream Fiber has been discussing plans for a substantial project across large swaths of underserved/unserved Pulaski County, mostly sort of the west of 35, east of 421, north of 14 part of the county. Any questions on any of that? Otherwise,
Does that Nashville, Indiana place have a Winnemac connection?
I don't know if they do.
I was just curious.
I know they have, as they have built networks northward, they've all opened a couple of satellite offices. Their closest one is in Fowler, and our broadband consultant is from Nashville, so he knows that team.
Okay.
They don't personally have one.
Okay.
That's all I have, if that's it.
Thank you, Nathan. At this time, we'll go to the sheriff's office. Chris?
Can you hear me, Zach?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks for waiting with us.
No problem.
I move away from the mic. I come to you tonight to present a program with you that I think is very beneficial to the Sheriff's Department and to the county. It's called Total Response. This was presented to me last June by our former 911 director. The current 911 director tonight is sick, so I brought Laura McIntosh. She's the assistant 911 director. Zach is with Total Response. Are you from Connecticut?
Yep.
Yeah, he's from Connecticut. I'm sure you guys are gonna have a bunch of questions about this because it's a very expensive program, but very worthwhile. It takes the guesswork when somebody calls in. I think this is a company been in existence since 1984. Is that right?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
I told them this company's been in existence since 1984. Is that correct?
1984, correct? Yep.
With over 700 systems worldwide. They're a very established company. Whenever somebody calls in, it can give assistance to CPR, any evidence, the safety instructions for the fire department, medical calls, weather, DOT charts. If you pull up in an accident, there's placarding on semis. It can tell you what to do, how far to stay away from something. It is very, very instructive for the dispatchers. It takes the guesswork out of it. It'll give CPR instructions. And correct me if I'm wrong about something, Zach, so I don't want to say something that's wrong about this. I've watched the video through twice, and I can't say enough good things about it. I know it's expensive, and when they tell you the cost, I think you have that in front of you, but it's, when you come to saving a life, I think it's well worth the money. I think the service plan cost, $6,000 cost. That's because we have 3 stations, because that'll put it at all 3 stations. And then you have an annual, I think, upgrade of $75.89, which the first year that's included. We won't have to pay that $75.89 till like the 13th month, which is after the first year. The $79.12, that's to interface with our caliber system, according to Laura, which will make it work with our system. It'll interface with that. So, yes,
It looks like this.
it's in your packet. I handed them because I saw in your packet with the packet that the auditor sent to you, so I didn't make copies for you. I can give you my copy if you want, Jeff.
Go ahead, I'll look at it.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Fred and Laura, and they got some more information, right? Come on up here. And Zach, do you have a presentation you want to give to them?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to share my screen and run through it quick.
Yeah, I don't want to keep Zach on there any longer than I have to. Go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry. Go ahead and just let them know about the system, what I've missed, and what I've overlooked. Thank you.
Okay, one major aspect of this program we focus on is the two-way module. So currently, just with the call review process, we're going to help formalize that grading process and, give your 911 center a real-time look at what your dispatchers are doing great and what we can help them improve on. So you'll be able to go in with this program and look at any calls, no matter what dispatcher was on, or if you want to look at a specific call type. And at that point, you'll be able to go through and review those calls. With that too, our software also has a couple supervisor functions that your 911 center will be able to access. So your supervisors will get a real-time look at where any of the callers are within a call, and they'll be able to send them alerts from their supervisor seat right to the desk of the dispatcher that they can reference as they're taking that call. If there's anything else you'd like me to elaborate on, I'm more than happy, but I'll give the floor back to you, Sheriff.
I forgot to mention, we have the money in our 911 fund, but since this was at the threshold of the amount that we discussed earlier, I needed to come to you, and I wasn't for sure if I needed to present it to the council or the commissioner, so I wanted to present it to both of you. And we are able to sustain this in our 911 fund each year, even with including the maintenance cost, so it is very doable. So if you want Laura to elaborate, you have anything else you want to talk about with it? Go ahead.
Hi, just to let you guys know, for the total response, we do have 8 full-time dispatchers that are already certified with the first response. As part of our being 911 dispatchers for the state of Indiana, the medical part is a requirement for us to sustain. So as of right now, all of our full-time dispatchers are certified through the first response system in law, fire, and EMS. We do have two full-time trainees that we've already put through this program, and they have passed and are certified as well with this first response system, as well as our director. So one advantage to staying with the total response is we are already with the program and have been certified with our certifications, which we always have to research on. For this to be integrated now into the CAD, like he says, it gives us real-time response to the responders, to the officers. So as we're taking the calls and getting the information, it's going to go right out to our officers, to our first responders, to our EMS. So it's supposed to have a little bit faster response times for everybody. We feel as part, we have a huge response to the public to get as much training that we can give back to the public. Our other thing is that they were talking about, as part of being a supervisor and a CTO trainer, this real response to seeing our trainees' calls going through and assisting them right away if there's something that they're missing or something that they need to help ask questions to the person that they do have on the phone. One thing that you may not even know, we also have to have 24 hours of training to keep our certifications. With this first response system, they have, and I looked into and have taken over 40 online free classes for us to take as part of this program. So that helps us with taking getting in our 24 hours for the year. And it doesn't just go with the medical, it has active shooting training on there, handling suicidal calls. It has things for just brand new dispatchers to learn that they may not know. Going from me for being with the county for 19 years, going to somebody who's only been here 6 months, it has great advantages of training and educating us. So this is something that we really are looking forward to, trying to help us as dispatchers to help the public. So, and like the sheriff said, we just did our end of the year financials. So our 911 122 fund does have money in there that this will help pay for to help us out.
Couple other departments, AID, check with them, see how they liked it, and they said it's worth every dime. She's on a 911 lady. A couple other departments around Indianapolis said they had it, and they said it's worth every dime. You know, you take the human error factor out of there, and you got to understand when one of these situations go on, there's 15 things happening. This is literally, you click on the situation and it's a drop down box. Will tell the dispatcher everything to do. It is very well worth the money, in my opinion.
Saves a great deal of time. Response.
It's a lifesaver.
The
Yes.
company is First Response System.
Total response is what it's called.
Total Response System.
Yes.
And then the cost would come out of the 911 fund.
Yes, and it's sustainable. Yes.
And is that an annual cost, 44,599?
No, no.
Okay,
The annual renewal cost is 75.89.85.
Okay.
And we pull in about 11,000 a month on 911 funds. You know, and we got some other things that we pay for out of there, some
Right.
renewals and stuff. We more than can do the renewal cost. That's an upfront cost. And the first 44 is what includes that annual fee. That's included in there. And the 6,000, like I said, on top of that is for the other two consoles in there. Yes. And they'll do you send somebody, Zach, to hook us up? I was watching the video today when we first, if it's approved, you send somebody out to hook us up, or how do you do that?
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you. Can you speak into the microphone?
When we first, if it's approved, do you send somebody to hook this up for us, or how do you do that?
Is there any way that we could type questions into the chat and the audio?
Just get right on it, Chris. You got to be speaking right into it.
That's what the video said. You got me any better now?
Yeah.
Oh. Alrighty, I see it in the chat here. Yes, we do send in implementation manager on site.
Okay.
All of our implementation managers are ex-directors, 911 supervisors, and they would come on site for that installation and for end user training for up to 3 days with your staff.
Well, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to tell them wrong. I didn't want to speak wrong. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What questions you have for us?
Well, so this money you currently have in the 911 budget,
Yes.
and that money that you have in there has not gone to other things over
No.
the past
It's
years.
real solvent at this point. Yeah. It's close to
Okay,
250 in there right now.
okay. And
Yes.
that would be my biggest concern.
That was
is
my
if
first
you-
question.
If you invest in this
I
and,
don't like running a fund down. You know me. I don't like running a fund down and not be able to sustain it. This is a one-time cost, and the recurrent fee, we can more than sustain that to carry it on. Yes.
okay,
That's the first
Okay.
question I asked these people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion on behalf of the commissioners to implement the total response plan for the sheriff's department. What else?
we have a motion and a second to approve the total response system paid out of the 911 fund. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Council?
Well, we'll have to get advertised. Both then.
Okay.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me.
Have a good night.
Jacob, there was a question earlier about conflict of interest statement. Jerry Locke, he submitted the conflict of interest. And the question is, if one submits the conflict of interest, do they vote? Is that what the question?
Yeah, should, abstain or recuse, is there a difference? Is there a difference between abstaining and recusing?
Is that better? Okay, much better. Yeah, my recommendation would be that they abstain. I think your question is the difference between abstaining and recusal. There may be, but I think the legal effect is the same way, is that they're not voting on the issue because it is actually a level 6 felony. I believe under the statute, if the person has more than a $250 interest
Right.
in the
Correct.
whatever the item is.
Does that also pertain to discussion on those items?
You know, I've never been asked that question before. Out of an abundance of caution, I generally would recommend that the person just, if in this particular instance, it's dealing with a solar issue, I would generally recommend that the person just refrain from comment or vote out of an abundance of caution, but certainly from voting.
Thank you.
If the name of the contractor or vendor is Mammoth Solar Durrell, so if it was an item with another solar company or not Durrell, could the individual vote?
As long as, and the thing you have to be careful about with those is, the short answer is yes. If it was a completely different entity, sometimes though, you run into the issue where you're dealing with an applicant who is a subsidiary or some sort of a partnership. So if there's any sort of financial connection between the two, the conflict would exist. So I generally would advise to look in to make sure that there's not a situation where you're dealing with a parent company or a subsidiary of the same company. At the end of the day, if you have a financial connection to the applicant at all, that would be a conflict.
Gary, does that answer? Jenny?
It-
Yeah.
I'll sit here like a dog.
No, but, okay, so, and I think this is beneficial for everyone here to ask these questions. So if a contract states that a landowner may have signed that indicates commercial solar and other energy systems, is that open enough to suggest that there may be other energy systems that they should also refrain from voting on? I know I'm getting technical, but
And so I guess I want to make sure I understand the question. So and if I'm misstating your question, tell me. What I think I'm hearing you ask is, if someone has a contract with a particular solar company, does the fact that they have an interest in solar in general or keep them from voting on any other solar issue, even if it's a completely separate company? Just the fact that it's the same industry, does that create the problem? Is that what you're asking?
Or, for example, if we would look at battery storage systems, and it is the same company that's wanting to do commercial solar, and then they may want to do battery energy storage, would that individual be precluded from voting on, or should they, from voting on those types of systems too?
Well, under the statute, I guess it's, the requirement is that the public servant knowingly or intentionally has an interest in or derives a project from the contracted interest. So, from my analysis on that would be, if you're dealing with a scenario where you have an individual who can show that they have a financial interest in that particular contract or with that particular applicant, they always should refrain from voting. I do not believe that extends to industry-wide applicants. So if somebody has a piece of property on the north end of the county with one company, and an entirely separate company has a project going on the southern half of the county, I don't believe that person has to say, well, because I have a contract with a solar company, I'm barred from having any sort of commentary or voting on the issue. But if they can connect it to their contract, in this case, if somebody's receiving rental income from a battery project or a solar project through a company, they need to refrain, period.
I appreciate it. And like I said with Laura Wheeler, who also signed a conflict of interest point at one time, I appreciate those who do fill those out. I think it just keeps things a lot cleaner for the county. So
Well, and
I
a
appreciate
lot of
that,
people
Jerry.
don't realize that there's criminal liability attached to it as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
Do we expect any more conflicts of interest from anybody?
I'll be turning one in. Received it today.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you.
So for the commissioners, do we have a motion to accept the conflict of interest statement, Gary Locke? I'll second that. Any discussion in there? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
think we're done.
Okay. We have a few minutes, a few minutes before the council needs to start organizing for their meeting shortly. Do we have any public comments for the commissioners? Okay. Seeing none, the commissioners will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jenny. We have a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need a motion to close this joint session for the council. Need a second?
Second.
Yeah, motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Meeting's adjourned.